Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
4 more years, 4 more years. Yes, Trump, and USA, USA. Unfortunately for Joe Biden, these chants were heard at a Toledo, Ohio event for Joe Biden. You can't make this stuff up. Oh, good morning. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot. Come on, patriots, with our Pledge of Allegiance. I love this. Good morning. And a good morning to you and yours, all gathered around the office desk or perhaps around the table in the kitchen. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. And we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best in tires and, of course, a safe, clean environment. And let's not forget, too, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, my friend. Thank you very much. And right now, let's go have the weather. K&R Rental. I really messed things up yesterday. I'm not going to do that again today. K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 West of Heyburn, brings you the weather. Roger and the crew with the best of tools and equipment. And that's for long or short-term rental. They've got everything. I mean, look at their front yard and then drive up to the office. Holy smokes, they've got everything you need to finish any kind of a job. K&R Rental on the Burley Paul Highway. You can't miss them. Their number to call, 678-3122. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Temperatures are going to be cooling down as we make our way through the rest of this week, and here's a look at your weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies for today. It is going to be breezy with a southwest wind at about 10 miles an hour. Could gust as high as 34 miles an hour with the high of 71. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with the low 46. That breeze will continue. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Only going to see a high of 50. Still going to be breezy. Gusts as high as close to 50 miles an hour. By Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low of 31. Then for Thursday, going to get frosty in the morning. Otherwise, mostly sunny skies by the rest of the day. High of 54. Friday, sunny and 63. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Range.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you very much. And again, brought to you by Roger and the gang over at K&R Rental. They've got everything. I don't know how they keep up on all their inventory, but they've got the rental of the best tools and equipment anywhere. You get a hold of them today. And if you're not sure what you need, call them first. 678-3122. Discuss it, then go on in, and they can help you at K&R Rental on the Burley Paul Highway. Don't you miss it. Real quick reminder, too, about our friends over at Daryl's Cleaners. I said yesterday, and I maintain this, that when your clothes are nice and crisp and pressed and you look good, you feel good, oh, yes, put your best boot forward, absolutely. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. We've been taking our clothes in there for years and years and years, and Kevin and Cindy and the rest of the folks, they really take care. Dry cleaning lengthens the life of your clothes. I mean, you're spending a lot of money on shirts and Wranglers and sports jackets, ladies' dresses, etc. Hey, take care of them. Stop into Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Real quick note before we start our calls, and gee whiz, I wonder who the caller is. I'll get to that in just a moment. I want to remind you, too, about some other folks that get to their office early in the morning, as they have for over 7 decades of serving you. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Man, you don't appreciate them until you need them, and they do all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. Believe me, they're the best, and all you have to do is call or stop in. 678-0459. That number again, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. The best, Ramsey Heating and Electric. Caller, good morning.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
As Gomer would say.
Yes.
Good morning to you.
Thank you.
And your wife.
Thank you. Okay.
I was watching these hearings with intensity. And when it comes to Feinstein, this woman that's running for our Supreme Court actually made her look like a monkey begging for peanuts.
Really?
Yes, she just did. I mean, she answered, she tried to pin her down on LGBT or whatever the heck the name is, and that and the Affordable Care and everything. And this gal stood up, and she was perfect.
Well, let me interrupt you here, Keith, because due to the fact that I'm getting ready for a program, I didn't have the luxury of, like you, sitting and watching and observing what was said and what was not said. But I will tell you this, and tell me if I'm wrong. This is your turn to tell me if I'm wrong. I would assume, by not having watched the hearings with Feinstein against Amy Coney Barrett, that she would have said the obvious. Well, now listen, Ms. Feinstein, how can I tell you about a perhaps ruling on a certain case when the case has not been brought before me as of yet, and as of yet I'm not even on the Supreme Court, so how can you tell me or ask me what a ruling would be? Now tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, you should run for the Supreme Court because that's exactly how I would answer it. And I think it's the right answer.
I think it's ludicrous, Keith, for these Democrats. I don't care if it's Feinstein. I don't care if it's Mazie Hirono from Hawaii. Oh, boy, there's a champ. And they ask these stupid, frivolous questions about, well, what would you do here? How would you rule there, etc., when the case and all the particulars have not been brought before her. I think it would be a real negative for her, Amy Coney Barrett, to say anything about a case until she has it in front of her. I admire her if she didn't say a word.
I admire you because you said it like it really should be said.
Well, I appreciate that, but I just think that the Democrats are stupid to try to go down that road of, well, what would you do on abortion? What would you do on health care? What would you do on this issue, etc.? How do you know, Keith, until you sit behind the wheel and you start to drive the car?
Yeah, this is like the waiting for that gotcha moment.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
They're looking for.
Well,
I don't think they're going to find it in this woman because she is very focused on what she's supposed to be doing.
And that's the whole key right there. I believe with all my heart of hearts, everything I've read about her, she is very sincere. She's very honest. She has a very, very high integrity, family, a devoted mother, and absolutely, if there's holes in the screen door, nobody seemed to have found them for years and years. She is an excellent choice for the Supreme Court. And I just wish the Democrats would sit back and say, okay, enough is enough, but they're not smart enough to do that.
The only thing they can do is to try to go backwards.
Yeah.
In their questioning.
Yeah.
Nothing that's going forward. because it hasn't happened yet.
Well,
How can you make a decision on something that hasn't happened?
I think that they've limited these hearings, God bless them, to end on Thursday. And I honestly think by next week it's going to be a slam dunk. I just think that what she's going through is needless. I think she's an excellent choice. The position needs to be filled. We should not. And I had some people call me and say, well, we should wait until after the election. No, we should not. Because they might have the need, they being the Supreme Court, they might have the need to actually, if this is a contested election and we only have 8 members of the court, we could end up in a virtual tie, and our whole political system could end up, and you know this is true, with Nancy Pelosi becoming president. Hey, let's get this Supreme Court seat filled right now.
Yeah, and in America, we have to say we have to have someone or some situation like the Supreme Court make that final decision, because it's got to stop somewhere.
Absolutely. I think she's an excellent choice, and I think the best word to describe Amy Coney Barrett is sharp. Very sharp. All right, Keith. God bless you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
My star back?
Yeah, you got your star back. All right. Go ahead.
Thank you.
You can go out for recess, too. Go out for recess. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Oh, my goodness, the menu choices. I had a caller the other day, as a matter of fact, and they said they went into Denny's and they said, wow, it was a tough decision to pick out just what they wanted. Everything is delicious. Everything is great. And the people there really are nice people at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Treat yourself. You deserve it at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Well, this morning the hearings are talking about, how she would vote on Roe versus Wade to overturn abortion. Well, that should be a big red flag or a signal. I think most of the people in America are against abortion, and that's what we're going to get. If they have the court packing with Biden-Harris, I mean, they will not only extend their death march on unborn, but extend it into the infanticide. This is the kind of party they are.
Yeah. Adrian, I'm going to interrupt you. I want to ask you a question. Hang on a second. Do you remember about, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago in the paper, there was a letter, and I wish I had it on my desk and I can't find it. And this particular author of this letter locally in Magic Valley said that most people are in favor of abortion. I don't know where this guy got his statistics, but he's way off base.
Oh, well, the lies, it's just unbelievable. I mean, you name the subject and the liberal media turns everything around just the opposite of what it is. If they look in the mirror, they're advocating the very thing they're supposedly against and for.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's just she's extremely well qualified, and I hope they, she's going to be able to stand this nonsense, but they haven't been able to. Kavanaugh was supposedly immoral, and with her, she's too moral. So they want it both ways, and that's the way the liberals are. Whatever fits their agenda, and of course, the Constitution. They say, well, this is unprecedented. The Constitution says if there's a vacancy in the court, the president has the duty to fill that.
That's right.
That vacancy. And
that's
right. Exactly what he's done.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. I think
Biden and Harris, we've got to all hands on deck to stop this nonsense. You see, I think somebody commented yesterday on talk radio that there's nobody at these Biden rallies. Why is that? I mean, they got all this money. Why aren't they paying people to not only riot, but nobody at these rallies?
Okay, now that's where I'm going to interrupt you again. I'm going to interrupt you again because this is necessary. I don't know if you heard this or not. When I opened up the program this morning, I had the little report about 4 more years, 4 more years. Yes, Trump, USA, USA. Unfortunately, Adrian, all of those chants were taking place yesterday at Toledo, Ohio event for Joe Biden.
Yeah, well, the whole problem is their whole game plan is they're not going door to door. It's all about stealing the election with write-in. There's going to be jillions of these write-in ballots filled out by somebody. They've already had a Democrat that confessed to filling in ballots for years. And, of course, we've heard almost nothing about that.
Yeah.
But, the Attorney General, Christopher Wray, he should be fired because he said, well, there's no evidence of voter fraud. Oh, my gosh, come on, wake up. There's been, I forget how many cases have been gone to trial and found people guilty of voter fraud. But the Democrats' whole game plan is to voter fraud and mail-in ballots and what have you. And they only have to win those, in those key states like Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio.
I got to run. Adrian. Thank you very much for your call, as always. I appreciate your points because you're spot on. Thank you very much, sir. I got to run.
Yeah, you bet. Well, everybody, all hands on deck. Get hold of your friends everywhere. We got to vote. We've got to watch what's going on. Thank you very much. This is a constitutional republic. We don't want it to be a socialist Marxist country.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Adrian. I was talking, I got to finish this story because I've got a picture here of Joe Biden, and it's a long-range photo. It's not a close-up, so that they could have cropped, if you will, the personnel or showed the fans or the constituents of Joe Biden. There's nobody there. You see some cars, and you see a sign that says Joe Biden, Build Back Better, and then you see an American flag, but all you see are about 4 security people around the podium with Joe Biden, and he's talking to nothingness. But the nothingness out in the audience, there were some, they started chanting 4 more years for Donald Trump, and it had to be a little disconcerting for Joe Biden because he can't handle anything that's disconcerting. But it was the truth. Yes, they were chanting 4 more years, 4 more years. Yes, Trump, USA, USA. But it was at a Joe Biden rally. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. I want to remind everybody, too, about Dino's Septic Service. Oh, they do the job that you and I don't want to do. No, I don't want to be standing out there pumping a septic tank. No, I don't want to clean out a sewer or a sink drain line. No. They do it, and they've got the best of equipment and the best of people. Absolutely. They've expanded. I think they cover almost all of southern Idaho right now, and they do a tremendous job. Call them, Dino's Septic Service, in Rupert, 436-6526, in Burley, 678-1638, and in Twin Falls. Hello, Twin Falls, 735-8281. The best, Dino's Septic Service. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. How are you today?
I am peachy good. Thank you.
That's good to hear. I was listening on the radio this morning, and here go the Democrats again saying it's too soon to get, Trump's justice in there. But like he said in the debate, he's not the president just for 3 years. It's 4 years, and like all those supporters in Toledo, Ohio, it's going to be another 4 years.
I couldn't agree more. And the president's time in office is for a 4-year period. It's not for 3 years and 10 months and some odd days. It's for a 4-year period. And he has the right and he has the duty to fill that seat on the Supreme Court. And I tell the Democrats, back off, sit down, go eat a cookie, and shut up.
I agree 100%, because you know darn well, pardon my French, that they would have already done it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I appreciate your show. I listen every day, and I'm a big fan of yours, and I really appreciate the time to let me voice my opinion.
You're welcome anytime, by golly. We'll make room for you. God bless you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right. He's spot on. You know, I just am sick and tired of the Democrats coming out and saying, here's one of the most dumb statements, and I'm so glad that man brought this up, that the Democrats are saying, well, Trump's packing the court. He's packing. No, he's not. He's filling a vacancy. Let's get the verbiage correctly. He's filling a vacancy. He appointed and had chosen Amy Coney Barrett. I keep wanting to say something else in the middle name. I'm sorry. My mind goes blank. And that was the name that was submitted for everybody's scrutiny and for application for that seat on the Supreme Court. He has that duty as a president to fill that seat. Can you imagine the turmoil going into an election that some people say is going to be right down to the nitty-gritty? I don't think it's going to be, but we'll see. And have a contested election, and you only have 8 seats on the Supreme Court, and 1 is vacant because of the whims of the Democrats to leave it vacant? No. Fill the seat. Put Amy Coney Barrett in that seat. We'll need the 9 justices in case the worst scenario happens. And I really don't care about the crybaby Democrats. Oh, you can't do that. He's packing the court. No, he's not packing the court. He is filling a vacancy. Let's get it right. And go buy a box of Kleenex, go in the corner, and cry. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Go vote. And I mean this. Go vote. We, the people, have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd. And this message paid by the re-elect District 27 Representative Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Treasurer. Absolutely. Go vote. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you see, and this just absolutely took my mind right out of my cranium and blew it around the planet a couple of times, I could not believe the rally for President Trump in Florida last night. Now, let's set the stage here a little bit. They, being the handlers of Donald Trump, the doctors and all the people that work in his offices, etc., did not have time to organize this rally in Florida last night. And the obvious reason was because they did not know the status of the president's health. Well, the doctors said, yes, you can go, and yes, you can have a rally. And in less than, I think it was less than like 36 hours, 37 hours or something like that. Pardon my cough, hay fever season. In less than 36 or 37 hours, they put the word out that they were going to have a rally in Florida. And holy cow! Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people turned out. They showed, I think they were using a drone camera, and they showed literally people hiking and walking like 3, 4, 5 miles when they found parking to get to the rally. I mean, it was unbelievable, the number of people. So then I sit there and I'm watching this, and then I get this picture about the Toledo, Ohio rally, if you will, for Joe Biden, and I don't see anybody. And when you listen to the tape and you're hearing Trump supporters chant 4 more years, 4 more years, Trump, Trump, USA, there's nobody at the Biden rally. But there are literally thousands upon thousands that are hiking into the rally for Donald Trump. And the cameras last night panned the back of this rally where they had it. And, I mean, there were people standing on top of people. So I guess my question is, and it's kind of a statement, do you believe at all these silly, stupid, frivolous polls? I mean, when you look at the numbers and you look at the circumstances of Biden talking in a gymnasium, and there are probably 6 or 8 reporters and maybe some personnel, etc., and the polling numbers are showing that Biden is way ahead in some states by double digits? Really? Do you believe these polls at all? I'm going to say this morning, 21 days from the election. We are looking at the biggest fraud, the biggest made-up scheme by the Democrats and the media to let America think that Donald Trump doesn't have a prayer. That's their perpetration. That's the idea that they're trying to put forth. I could not believe that with no preparation, no advanced knowledge, no advanced advertising, that Trump could get, I don't know how many thousand were there. I mean, I'm going to guesstimate, not being in the auditorium and not being close to all the, I'm going to say there was over 10, 12, 13,000 people there last night. And Biden ends up with Trump supporters. Oh, my. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody, if I can quit this doggone cough. I've had that thing for 5 weeks. Barry Equipment and Rental. No, I do not have COVID. Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location for all the equipment you need for the lifting and the digging and the pushing and the carrying and the grading and the leveling. Oh, you want the big dudes. You want the tough dudes. Well, they've got all of that with the equipment available, all the bobcats and all the trenchers, all the scissor lifts, all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators. Oh, my. They've got excellent finance programs to buy and excellent lease programs. Barry Equipment and Rental, Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, we have American people who listen to the radio or watch TV. We just listen with intent, but we don't know whether they know what they're talking about.
Oh, I agree with that.
And the thing that I want to bring up is the Affordable Care Act. How many people do you know, whether it be Democrat or Republican, knows how that system works? I don't.
Well, no, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs and the mechanics of the system of the Affordable Care Act. I'm not going to take that time. But I am going to tell you that if I put a story, and you know this is true, Keith, we've talked about this personally. If I put a story on the air, it's not going to be a story that is not verified at least once or twice over to make sure that it's a legitimate story with the facts. And that's just the way it's going to be. But no, as far as what's going on with health care, the Affordable Care Act, and pre-existing conditions and everything, no, I'm not going to take the time on that right now. But I can tell you this, in the next week, we're going to have doctors on the program that are going to discuss it and talk about the honesty of what's going on with health care and not leave it up to a bunch of Democrat bureaucrats that don't understand come here from Sikkim.
Well, Zeb, I can say honestly, unequivocally, that when I make a mistake and I'm just a little bit on the wrong side, you are very quick to correct me. I appreciate that to no end, but that's the way it should be.
Well, and the same goes for me. I mean, even though we do a lot of research and we put together a compilation of stories that we want to talk about every morning on my first hour, there could be some errors. And if there is, I definitely want to be told so that we can make those corrections. And I appreciate my audience being so tuned in, if you will. And you're one of them. I appreciate it.
You know, the other day, my friend and your friend, Eddie Donagle, I met him on the street, and we talked. And he said, I enjoy hearing you on the radio. And I said, Eddie, why don't you ever call in? You have an opinion also. And he said, well, you know, he whined around it. And I said, you got nothing to whine about. Just speak up to what you're thinking, because you're a very intelligent person. And he said, okay.
Well, let me tell you, Eddie is one of my, I just think the world of him and his lovely wife, and a part of our Lunch Bunch crew. And some people are a little shy about being on the radio. I can understand that. I can appreciate that. Others want to voice their opinion. That's fine. But I'll tell you what, I'm blessed with excellent listeners, and the Donagles are some of those, as you are. Keith, I got to run. Thank you so much. I appreciate your call.
You bet.
All right, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. There are two issues that when they need added financing or funding, I am there to support them. Hold on, caller. I got to make this point. I want to finish this point. And those two issues are our police and our fire departments. And when comprehensive studies have been done where the cash is needed to enhance and help those departments, of whether it's police or fire departments, I absolutely am going to get on the radio and I'm going to advocate for what they need, whether it's a mill levy increase or whatever the fact is. I'm in. And to the naysayers, and we're going to have an issue coming up on this November 3rd election regarding the Rock Creek Fire Department. Nobody's paying me to say this. It's my opinion, and quite frankly, it's my program. I absolutely am going to support what they need for a levy of increase. I noticed there was a letter in the paper this morning that says, well, I'm on a fixed income and I don't get an automatic 3%, et cetera. I'll tell you what, I know for a fact from talking to people with the Rock Creek Fire Department that their call volume has gone up like 2 or 3 times in volume of services needed. And I'll tell you today, with our police and our firemen, with the increased need of their services, you doggone betcha that if a comprehensive study has been done on the costs and how it will help them and preserve their service to us, I'm voting for it. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. It's like an insurance policy for you.
Absolutely.
You pay a little bit, but you get a lot in return if you need it.
Well, the thing is, it's easy to criticize and say, well, I'm voting against it because I don't have, I'm on a fixed income, et cetera, and my costs go up and everything. You know what? When you make that call to 911, whether it's for police services or for a fire, you darn sure aren't thinking about finances at that time. You want help and you want it now.
That's exactly right, my friend. It's exactly right. So, I called about too on Vice President Biden and his rallies. That one that was in Arizona and that reporter standing there. Did you see that video clip?
Absolutely.
The only people she seen pulling in the parking lot was the Biden team and some reporters that go with him.
You know, I tell you what, how would you like to be, honestly, and I'm serious when I say this to you, even though it's kind of funny, how would would you like to be Joe Biden? And his handlers are saying to him, okay, now, Joe, you got to walk 37 steps up to the podium and then put your hands on the side of the podium, adjust your mask if you will, or you can take it off on one ear because there's not going to be anybody within 40 or 50 feet of you, and then look out and pretend that you're talking to masses of people that support you. And there were 4 reporters.
I know it. I mean, it's a sad deal, and it should be the people that are pushing Joe Biden forward they're doing something that is immoral. I mean, this man apparently has problems.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody has problems when they get up almost 80 years old. But he's had a couple strokes.
Yeah.
So his mental capacity isn't there, and these people that are pushing him forward, I mean, they have no soul.
It's really cruel. And quite frankly, it's inhumane. When you look at Joe walk with the flat-footed walk up to the podium, kind of where I don't want to bend my knees too much because I might fall attitude, and nobody's an expert on walking like I am, because I can fall over a blade of grass. Anyway, he gets up to the podium and his eyes, look in his eyes, the truth of the soul can be read through the eyes. And Joe Biden looks like a lost soul. He
does. And his wife, for putting her husband through this stuff, I mean, it's sad. I hope my wife never pushes me to do things, that I don't know I'm doing.
Well, what is the advantage? Tell me this, Doug, because you're a sharp student of politics. But what is the advantage to the Bidens and their family to be put through this right now when Joe is 78 years old and time, well, you're looking in the rear view mirror, not forward, you're looking backward. What's the advantage to the family?
Well, to Hunter, it'd probably be another $50,000 or $100,000 a month salary at some board somewhere.
A lot more than that.
Yeah. But, I mean, they've sold their soul to the devil for the almighty dollar years ago. Biden, what he has done over his career, enriched his brother, his sister, his kids, Hunter, and himself off the taxpayer dollar. When you worship the dollar more than you worship God, then you have a problem.
Well, it's sad to me that this man is going into this election, and it's sad for the American public, too, to think that and I'm not wishing him any bad luck. I don't want anybody to come back and say that because you'd be the liar. I'm not wishing him any bad luck with his health at all, but you know as well as I do that with the stress and the duress that is put upon the president, regardless of who the president is, you've got to be in good shape both physically and mentally to withstand everyday occurrences. And I doubt seriously, if he won, that he would be in office, sitting in that chair behind the desk in the Oval Office for even a year.
I give it a month. Why do you think Nancy Pelosi's pushing the deal where the House can invoke the 25th?
Well, I said that yesterday. I mean, they're basically creating their own lifeguard system. They're building the chair right now.
They're building the insurance policy, as they said it when President Trump come in.
Yeah. But I hope it doesn't get to that point. I do not want to see Kamala Harris or Joe Biden anywhere close to the White House unless they're asked to be a guest or they want to take a guided tour. I don't trust them. I've looked at the negativities. I've studied the negativities of the Democratic platform, and I just wish America in general would understand how absolutely deceived they're being by the Democrats.
Exactly. It is a bait and switch. They will not stand on any policies because they have none to stand on. The only thing that they want is more money, more power, and to take the middle class and turn them into a subservient class of people.
Well, they're playing a shell game right now that you can see on the streets of New York or L.A. or wherever. But the Democrats, they're playing the shell game with us, but they took the P.
Exactly. Yeah, there's nothing underneath those shells.
There you go.
To pick and win.
There you go. Hey, give us your 10-second goodie.
You look at President Trump's rallies, like that one you mentioned, in 36 hours, they have 100 or tens of thousands of people.
Yes.
And I mean, that is, and the rallies in Hawaii, I seen a video of a truck parade in Hawaii. There must have been 300 or 400 pickups and cars.
Yeah.
Trump flags.
Yeah.
In Hawaii.
And that leads me all the more, like I said, Doug, and I'm running late, help me, but leads me all the more to take every one of these polls. There's only one poll, and I mean this, because I know this man. He's been on my program, and that's Rasmussen. You've seen him on television. I trust their polling, and their polls are so much different than these other fictitious polls.
Exactly. Anyway, well, I'll let Zeb get back on schedule, so let's do what we can for our senior centers. Let's support them. Go eat there. Donate to them if you can. But go eat there and leave with a full tummy and a full heart.
You know, Doug, I got to tell you that you telling everybody to let Zeb get back on his schedule, that's an oxymoron. Never going to happen. Talk to you later. Thank you. Got to go to the weather forecast. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Oh, my. Are you missing parts of the conversation? Do your neighbors come over and say things about maybe football or whatever, and you're going, what, huh? What'd they say? Well, don't let it go like that, please, because if you're noticing a decline in your hearing, please call these people at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. They've got the best technology, and they know everything about hearing health. Call them, make an appointment today at 312-0957, right behind the Minidoka County Hospital, across from the emergency room. Mount Harrison Audiology. Here's Gina with the weather.
Temperatures are going to be cooling down as we make our way through the rest of this week, and here's a look at your weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies for today. It is going to be breezy with a southwest wind at about 10 miles an hour. Could gust as high as 34 miles an hour with the high of 71. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with the low 46. That breeze will continue. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Only going to see a high of 50. Still going to be breezy. Gusts as high as close to 50 miles an hour. By Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low of 31. Then for Thursday, going to get frosty in the morning. Otherwise, mostly sunny skies by the rest of the day. High of 54. Friday, sunny and 63. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Gina. Thank you. Call the number at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957, and they can help you with your hearing health. Make an appointment today, Mount Harrison Audiology. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you hear about these two guys? They're down in Florida, and they work for the state, and they work for a program to get pythons, big snakes, out of the Everglades, because these big pythons that were introduced and in the Everglades are eating a lot of the livestock. So they're walking along, these two guys, snake hunters, which leads me to ask the question, why would anybody want that kind of employment? And so they're walking through the grass and everything, and all of a sudden one of them stumbles. And the other guy bends over and sees if he needs some help with his backpack and everything. And they had stumbled over an 18-foot, 9-inch Burmese python. 18 feet, 9 inches. Burmese python. Now, that leads me to say this. That even though I'm on crutches, there isn't the fastest man at the Olympics or anywhere that could have caught me going the other way. I mean, first of all, I wouldn't have put myself in there. walking with another person in the deep grass and all the plants and vegetation and all the things that want to bite you, sting you, and kill you. And they trip over an 18-foot, 9-inch Burmese python that weighed well over 100 and some pounds. Holy cow, how would you like to stumble over that in your job? Woo! They put that thing on a road. I got a picture of it right here. They put that thing on a road and stretched it across the road, and they had plenty on each end to hold up to the cameras. Wow. 18 feet, 9 inches. That would really spoil your day. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, Zeb. How you doing?
Well, good, but I hate snakes. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Christensen Taxidermy over here in Hebron. We'll mount that python for you and stick it in your house. How's that?
I got news for you, buddy. You come in my driveway with it, and you will be turned away abruptly.
Okay.
Have you ever had, let me ask you a question, though. In your business, has anybody asked you to do taxidermy on a snake?
Yeah, we've had a couple of them. They're difficult to do, and they're a scaled reptile, and they're, when you take the skin apart, you got to be real careful that the scales don't pop out of the socket. So I kind of stay away from snakes. Not that I don't care to do them. It's just they're difficult to do, and my money can be spent. Time can be spent elsewhere on other animals.
Well, I guess maybe, is it for like a museum or something? Is that where they would want these snakes perhaps mounted like that?
Yeah, or if a hunter likes those particular type of reptiles, there's people out there that like snakes, there's people out there that like elk, there's people out there that like, whatever type of species they want, unless you find somebody that wants it in their home, but I wouldn't.
Well, let me ask you, though, seriously, in your kind of work, if somebody all of a sudden drove up in a pickup truck and said, hey, come here a minute, I want to show you something, and showed you an 18-foot, 9-inch python, what would your reaction be?
Well, probably absolutely astounded, because they're not native to our area, number one. But I did have that happen to me about 15 years ago. Some kid came in, and he had one of those dang things. I don't remember how long it was. He had one, and I said, where did you get this? And he said, oh, my dad works in Florida.
Oh, my.
And I said, buddy, you've crossed state lines. The Lacey Act's involved in here, and in case you brought this across state lines illegally, you may not have known you've done that, but I wouldn't touch it for legality purposes.
Oh, my goodness sakes. Well, listen, you're in a line of work that I admire, but when it comes to snakes, I don't blame you. I wouldn't want them at all. Thank you very much for your call.
You remember Jerry Voss and I came in with that wolf one time, remember?
Yeah, you scared the bejeebers out of me. Thank you. And my dog, too. Thank you.
You have a good day.
All right, appreciate your call. Thank you. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. I was stationed in Florida for a while. The first time I ever confessed to face with an armadillo was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and when I hit that thing, it hit the brace for the fender, pulled my fender in far enough to hit the tire, and that thing disappeared. They have some weird stuff growing in Florida.
How big are those armadillos? How big did they get?
Well, I don't know. They're not a giant thing there, but the darn thing's got so much armor on it. You can, well, probably about the size of a small dog, and they're kind of wide.
Yeah.
And they're tough. Man.
Oh. Well, while you were in Florida...
We had snakes down there, and they like the warm runways, and alligators and every other darn thing.
Well, okay, that leads me to ask you a quick question, and then I got to go to the news. On the warm runways, I mean, here we're talking about an 18-foot, 9-inch Burmese python. Did you have to have, like, crews go out and inspect the runways to make sure you didn't have a whole bunch of snakes that would slide a plane off the runway?
They have guys go out there. Sometimes the crocs like the warm runways, and they just have to go out there with the Jeep and a pole and get rid of them.
Boy.
There's all kinds of stuff growing in Florida.
I hear you. Tony, God bless you, man. Thanks for your call. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Woo! 18-foot, 9-inch python. Oh, boy. And the guy tripped over it. Oh, my goodness sakes. All right, let's go to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you in a very safe, clean environment. And boy, right now, it is tire changing time. Yep, you went through the spring, you went through the summer, and now we got to be realistic and say it might get ugly before too long, and you better be prepared with the best in tires for bad weather driving. Absolutely. And another thing, you better make sure that when your battery is checked, it's a good battery, because you don't want to go out in the morning on a cold morning and turn the key and you get nothing. Nothing. They've got the best of batteries right there at all 7 locations at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. James in Buell, Dan on Poline in Twin Falls, Lane in Rupert, Mike in Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes in Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. Yep, the best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run to the news. I'll be back in about 7 minutes. Oh my, on a Tuesday, October the 13th, Zeb at the ranch, and please, I ask you, bear with me on this doggone cough that I get every harvest season with the dust in the air and everything. I apologize. Zeb at the ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best in tires and in a very safe, clean environment. Also, our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh my, they are always at your disposal. Let me tell you, they really care whether it's on the route service, once a week come by, get your garbage, or whether you need a dumpster of various sizes to clean out the attic, the basement, whatever. They'll bring it out, you fill it up, they'll come and get it. I mean, all kinds of services, porta potties at the end of the field during harvest time. You better call them. They're always at your disposal. 734-6969, Western Waste Services. Absolutely. Want to give a great big shout out to our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Hello, Nick. Hello, Josh. Hello, everybody over there. Man, I mean, they really have a team of great physical therapists that can help you when you're recuperating from a surgery or an accident. They know all the exercises. They've got the only one of its kind hydrotherapy pool in the area. Woo! You better call and work with the best to get you back in shape. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And last but not least, and believe me, they are not last, these folks are really, really community-oriented and serving you and your family. And we're talking about Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. They really serve you and your family with flexible hours, and when there's the passing of a loved one, they are there to help you, always with the best possible support and comfort, with the highest ethical standards and unquestioned integrity. They care. Hanson Mortuary with Joel Heward, his family and staff at 710 6th Street in Rupert. And Joel also serving you at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Well, I just heard a news report just moments ago, hot off the press, that the Chevy Volt electric vehicle is catching on fire. And this is my own little addendum to that story. So it sounds like if you're going to travel anywhere with the Chevy Volt, maybe you better take along some hot dogs and some chocolate s'mores, because you might get hungry and eat while that car is burning. Good morning, Dan Kish.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm good. Tell me about these Chevy Volts. It sounds like they could sit on the side of the road and you could have a great big barbecue.
Well, this has been a problem with these lithium-ion batteries, and Tesla has about 1,000 pounds of this stuff on it. That's what makes it go. For quite a while. I mean, there's been fires. There's been they haven't quite figured out exactly what the issue is, but I tell you this, I think it would really set them back, Zeb, because the Greens want us to all ban carbon dioxide, but the fire extinguishers use carbon dioxide. So they really put us in a tough spot, don't they? They make us drive cars that catch fire, and then they won't let us put them out with fire extinguishers.
Well, Dan, let me ask you this. It sounds to me, and please tell me, because you know everything. You're the guru sitting up on the mountain when it comes to this kind of a topic. But what is causing these electric cars to burn, and what can you or can't you do once they catch on fire?
Well, you're talking about an enormous amount of energy that's stored in there, Zeb, and these are chemical batteries. That's how batteries work. They move via chemicals. They move it from one side of a membrane to another, which translates it into electricity. But long and short is they do not know. I mean, this has been an issue on airplanes with laptops, and you every once in a while see somebody whose cell phone catches fire in their pocket.
Yeah.
And they've been trying to figure out exactly what it is. I mean, it has something to do with the electronic controls, the computer brain, in essence, that regulates the electricity, because it's not supposed to do that by design, and there seem to be continuing bugs in this system, which, in all honesty, we don't need to do anyway. And so that's the real, after putting together this great Rube Goldberg situation where we're all going to switch over from things we have right under our feet right here at home to things that we have to rely on China for 80% of, like these batteries, we get back to the question is, remind us why we did this again?
Yeah.
And the only answer they've got is that if the United States does away with all combustion of all fuels, the temperature in the world in the year 2100 would be 0.017 degrees Celsius difference. In other words, 17/1000th difference temperature in the year 2100, which is, we couldn't even, you wouldn't be able to distinguish that at all. But that's the argument. If the United States left the Earth tomorrow, stopped producing, we just all disappeared, the rapture. The difference in the year 2100 would be so small that it wouldn't make a difference. And yet they want us to change our entire economy in order to pursue this, because this puts them in Washington in charge.
Dan, I'm going to ask you some questions. I don't know if you've got the facts and figures on, but when you have somebody like Gavin Newsom in California saying, I'm going to make an edict that there will be no more gas cars in California. Okay, I don't know how many licensed vehicles there are in California, but I am assuming that they're not all brand new vehicles, not brand new cars, not brand new trucks, many of which might be out on the farm, many of which might be in rural locations that may be 10, 15 years old or more, and they still run good, so why buy a new one? So when you make those edicts to go all electric in a short period of time, where's where's all this money? We've talked about this before, but where is all this money going to come from for all these families, all these farmers, all these ranchers, everything, to transition and get these electric vehicles?
Well, they don't really. They never answer that, Zeb. That's not a question they answer. They don't have to answer it because the media is on their side, and so they don't ask them tough questions like that. Well, how do you expect somebody to afford this? What about a person who is lucky enough to scrape together enough money to get a vehicle so that they can drive themselves to work? Because he or she may be, she may be a single mother raising kids and needs to get to work, and yet the cost of her transportation has just gone through the roof. Eventually, what they really would like to do is force everybody to use. They drive up the cost of personal transportation and the freedoms that come with it, and make it so difficult that the rich people ride and the poor people get stuck in a bus, or the working people. That's basically what it is. I mean, Barbara Streisand is never going to have to worry about how she gets somewhere. That's all taken care of her. But for somebody who works trying to keep a roof over his family's head and may need a pickup truck to do it, the cost of transportation is a huge part of their business.
Absolutely.
And they're just driving the cost up, making it more difficult, sort of trying to boil the frog slowly. And every once in a while, when the price of energy goes up, people get upset, but then they get used to it and they go back to it. So this is what they would do if they had their way.
You know, Dan, you're so smart on all these subjects and everything, and talking about batteries and electric cars, etc. And Sean, there's just a little feedback there, please. But, you know, my question is, and again, we've touched on this briefly, but all the batteries in all the cars and all the pickups, if they have any, and we're off the air.
Okay, that was weird.
I'm back. You get me back on with him.
Yep, 1 second.
We were cut off the air momentarily. I have no idea what happened, but we had a little bit of a blip in my headsets.
Wait, 1 second.
All right. We're back on the air. We were cut off, and we were in the middle of our interview with Dan Kish back east. And, Dan, I'm sorry. All of a sudden, I was cut off the air. I apologize.
No problem, Zeb. I understand. You better get used to this. You know, they get control of this. Everything will stop working.
Amen. You know, you and I talked about this next aspect of electric cars, etc., before, but I want you to elaborate on it a little bit. When you have these batteries, and I do not know the shelf life of, like, for a car, a passenger car, or the bigger batteries maybe that might be used for pickup trucks or farm machinery and or semis on the interstate. But when these batteries croak, what are they going to do with these? Are they going to take them to a national battery depository? What are they going to do with them? You can't just leave them laying around on the ground, can you?
No. These are going to have to be recycled, and they haven't got the systems in place for that yet, Seb. I mean, you know, when you think about this, what do you do with a 1,000-pound battery?
Yeah.
It's got to be recycled. They're going to have to peel the pieces apart. They're having issues already with that because some of it's recyclable, some of it isn't. It's going to have to all be. And what's the cost of that? Because that has to be added to the overall cost of the system. There are companies right now, literally, that are, and I think we've discussed this, but there are companies that are literally taking old phones, smartphones, and cell phones, and taking the batteries out of them and taking the pieces apart to try to figure out how exactly they do that, and selling the parts back into the battery stream. So, and when you talk about changing over a country that has a quarter of a billion personal vehicles, that's what the United States has.
Oh my!
250 million vehicles.
Oh my!
When you're talking about that and you're thinking 1,000 pounds, well, with pickups and SUVs, it'd be more than that. Where's all this stuff going to come from? We're going to have to build some pretty big mines, and for the copper, all these electric motors and that are involved. And, you know, the same people who want us to go to all this won't let us build a mine in the United States. They oppose everyone that comes along. And so, you know, you have to ask yourself, are they seeking a solution to a problem, or are they really seeking chaos?
Yeah.
Are they seeking to disrupt it and give the government more power, because in all of this chaos, opportunity presents itself for more government involvement? Oh, gee, we've got a problem with our electrical system now. We need more government involvement. Our cars have problems. We need more government involvement. It's almost like they're setting the table for the United States to be a chaotic place so that somebody at the right time can come along and offer to fix it all. And all you have to do is give up your freedoms in order to do it.
Excellent point. Now, my mind works a little differently than most, and I apologize for that. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, while you're talking about these batteries and what are we going to do with them if they burn out, how are we going to discard them safely, etc. But you know what? My mind is going ahead to maybe a little town like Murtaugh, Idaho, where I live. And you break down in Murtaugh, Idaho, and let's say you're a semi-truck driver making a delivery. And how are you going to get a battery for that truck, and who is going to have the equipment to put that battery in if they weigh that excessive amount?
Well, I mean, people are going to have to pay the cost of establishing systems. I mean, we already have, the gas stations that we have in this country are already paid for, right? And so, typically, the tanks are in the ground. If they've had to be replaced, that had to be added to the price of gasoline, but in large measure, they've been paid for. What they're talking about is developing an entirely duplicate system and absorbing all of those costs into the overall energy, because you'd have to have tow trucks, dedicated tow trucks with appropriate equipment on there. Would that include a forklift so that they could lift the battery? Probably, because it's going to be tough to lift a 1,000-pound battery in the absence of that. They'll have to all of this has to be developed, and at every turn, Zeb, I mean, make no mistake about it. Some people see this as a great opportunity. You know, if the government tells you can no longer have a gasoline-powered car, they'll get into business of tow trucks dedicated to electric vehicles, because that's your only, and the cost of that will be paid for by consumers. And these are all, if this were a necessary part of life, if this were required because we didn't have any oil or natural gas or anything else left, that'd be one thing. But that's not the case. We've got more under our feet than just about any place in the world. We're producing more than anybody else, and yet they're saying, forget that stuff that works. Let's go and design a whole new system, and we're supposed to be the guinea pigs. That these politicians are going to run through the ringer just to make themselves more powerful and make it look as though they're doing something to help us out. Frankly, we don't need their help.
You know, I'm sitting here and we're talking about trucks and cars, etc., but what about the airplane industry? What are they going to do? Are they going to run on electric power? I doubt seriously if Dan Kish and his lovely wife and Zeb Bell and his wife are going to take a trip over to England and cross the pond on a battery.
You just have to dodge the clouds. That's the trick. It's nuts. They spend huge amounts of money on testing out solar-powered planes that will go about 60 miles an hour, and if they're lucky, and can carry one passenger, that sort of thing. The idea of putting huge batteries in airplanes, people are talking about it, but this is all Flash Gordon stuff. This is all, I wish them luck, but until then, the idea of deliberately making our existing transportation more expensive just to prove to us that we need to go to this other stuff, like Joe Biden doesn't want fracking. So, in essence, he does one day and doesn't the other. He can't quite make it out, but it's pretty clear where he's coming from and where his party's coming from. That means that 90% of the wells that produce oil and gas in the United States wouldn't be producing oil and gas, because that's how extensive that process is. And deliberately making energy more expensive so that we'll be forced to ride on a solar-powered airplane or something it's really abuse of power. It's really abuse of the trust that we place in our leaders and the freedoms that we have as Americans to make our own decision for what's right about our own lives.
I'm sitting here, and I absolutely, when I was rodeoing full-time, announcing all over the United States and Canada, I was on an airplane at least 2 or 3 times a week. But to think that industry and the safety factor of them being coerced and forced into going with batteries and perhaps being run on solar power, etc., I doubt seriously if the ticket sales are going to go up.
That's right, and of course the costs associated with that would just be astronomical.
Yeah,
that doesn't seem to. They're happy if we're all sitting at home, can't go anywhere, and they're able to tell us what to do and what not to do. That seems to be part of what makes them up. It's a very strange time.
Oh my!
And we ought to beware, because our freedoms and our liberties are at stake, and that's what our founders formed this country to defend.
Absolutely. Dan, you are absolutely outstanding. I look forward to this every Tuesday. Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance, a dear friend of this program. God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
God bless you and yours, Zeb. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I just really enjoy having him be a part of my program. Thank you, Dan Kish. Wow. Can you imagine the pilot getting on the intercom and saying, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful day and the sun's shining and we're recharging our batteries right now. Certainly hope that we don't get any cloudy weather. Oh, boy. Anyway, I want to remind everybody about Denny's Restaurant. Oh, what a great place to go eat. Call your friends, call your neighbors, call your relatives. Everybody get together, have a great, great time, and great dining at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. 611 North Overland in Burley, and another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Oh, pick up the menu, open it up, and go, holy moly, how am I going to make a decision? This is all looking great. Absolutely, and it is. And really nice people serving you at Denny's Restaurant. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, desserts, anytime, all the time at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Want to also remind you to go vote. Go vote. We, the people, have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd. This message paid by the Re-elect District 27 Representative Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Treasurer. Amen. Go vote. Absolutely. We're going to have our next guest coming on the program momentarily, but I also want to remind you about a great place to go because they sell fun. Who am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. My goodness sakes, they've got all the side-by-sides. They've got all the four-wheelers. They've got all the accessories. They've got the knowledge with people that can really help you get out of Dodge City and head for the hills, I'm telling you. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 2. I urge you to stop. Oh, and they've got a service department that's second to none to keep you running at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. Really good people. Over in that area, as you go into Rupert and you start on that first curve, hit the brakes. That's where Cameron and Siemens Insurance is on Highway 24 in Rupert. We're talking about service here. Todd and the rest of those folks are so dedicated and so devoted to serving you with the best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more. All you need to do, one thing you got to do, pick up the phone and give them a call. Make an appointment. That's easy. Call them right now, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really, really good people. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and we have the founder and CEO. And
No, we don't.
We don't?
No, I called that number. It goes straight to a voice message. I left a voice message, and I'm just waiting for him to call back.
Maybe that's them that are ringing in right now. Let's check it out. We're hoping that we're going to have Stephen Hotze, Dr. Stephen Hotze, on our program this morning. And should be a slam dunk done deal. So Sean's answering that phone, and we'll see who it is. Is it?
That wasn't.
It's not. Okay. All right. Well, calls are welcome and appreciated then. Deanne, if you're in the other room, if you could do a little detective work for me and find out what happened to our good doctor this morning. And we'll try to fill the time with your calls. So give us a jingle. Yes.
I did leave one message, but then I called back to leave another message, and his messaging was full.
All right, well, we're going to try on our end. If you'll keep trying on yours, I'd certainly appreciate it to get a hold of the doctor at that number that I aforementioned to you. I would appreciate that. So evidently a little bit of change in the scheduling, and maybe he's late getting to a studio to where he can talk to us, etc. So we'll open it up and say, please call at 436-2244. 1-866-927-4587. What's going on else in the world today? Oh, I was reading this, and for those of you that are weather fanatics, I've got a grandson. One of my younger grandsons, my son Jake's boy, that absolutely is a weather nut. I mean, this young man wants to be a meteorologist. He's about, 9, 10 years old right now. And he wants to be a weatherman studying meteorology. And I was reading in the Old Farmer's Almanac, and they are predicting, listen to this. All right, I'll be right with you. They're predicting that in this area, we will have a very wet, snow-filled winter coming up during the next couple of months. That's according to the Old Farmer's Almanac. We'll see how true that is. Right now, I believe with us on the program, Deanne, if you would bring that back to me real quick, I would appreciate it. A gentleman that we've had on the program before, and I'd like to give him a great big shout out and thank you, and that's Dr. Stephen, I hope I say the name right, Hotze. Is that correct?
That's it. You got it right, Jeff. Congratulations.
Well, send the check, either cash, money order, whatever. I appreciate it.
We'll wire it, okay?
Yeah, okay. Dr. Otzi, I'm just going to ask you this as the first question of our conversation. What is going on right now, in your opinion, with the COVID-19? We're hearing so much negative and then perhaps some positive. Give us the straight skivvy.
I said from the get-go, this is the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the public. If nobody said anything about the coronavirus, people have said, I got some kind of flu bug this year. It's been very, contrary to everything you want to hear on the press, it has been a very mild flu-like respiratory illness. You know, we have in our practice, we have 8,000 active guests. I don't believe we've had 50 or 100 that have had the symptoms of a flu-like illness that we treated with as if they had COVID. And all of them have done fine, you know. As a matter of fact, some of them have said, I had the flu last year. It was a whole lot worse than this. But our people, for the most part, since we only had 100, our people are healthy because we do natural approaches to health. And one thing you haven't heard from your public health doctors is what you can do to strengthen your immune system so you will not get sick. All of us, Jeff, are in contact with literally trillions of viruses and bacteria every day. You can't get away from it. They're there. Why don't we get them? In fact, you've got them in your mouth and in your sinuses and in your colon. Literally trillions and covering your body. You've got staph epidermis by the billions and trillions all over your body. How come we don't get sick? Because our immune system fights everything off and keeps it at bay. And if you're healthy, you just don't worry about it. If you get recurrently sick every year and you have to take antibiotics for sinus or bronchitis, you've got an unhealthy immune system and you've got to tone it up. That's the most important thing. Don't be reactive, like putting on a mask is going to save me. There are people, 70% of the population believes if they wear a mask, it'll prevent them from getting sick. Just yesterday, or day before yesterday, the CDC reported that of the people that were diagnosed with COVID, 85% wore masks all the time or almost all the time. Well, how did they get sick if they wore a mask? Well, guess what? They're rebreathing your own carbon dioxide, and when you exhale without a mask, you have bacteria and viruses you're expelling from your body. That's just what you do. If you keep rebreathing your carbon dioxide and you get lower levels of oxygen, all this inhibits the immune system from functioning at an optimal level. I think masks are the stupidest, silly thing. People put them in their pocket. Yeah, they walk around, put them in their pocket, use the same mask day in and day out. Oh, I can walk into a restaurant, I've got to wear a mask, but I can sit at the table beside everybody. We don't need to wear a mask. It is just absolutely absurd and ridiculous.
Let me ask you this. Dr. Otzi, let me interrupt you right there and ask a point that I was wondering about on my own person here about a week ago. And Sean, we've got feedback on the line, please. You know, the bacteria and supposedly the little molecules that when you go into a store or whatever gather on the outside of your mask, supposedly that is to protect you on the inside of the mask. When you take the mask off and you handle it with your hands, maybe put it in your glove compartment of your pickup or your car, and then go and get it again, aren't you transferring the same bacteria back to you again?
Sure. That's what's absolutely, that's what's so ridiculous about this. This is all about a mind control game, a psyop that some body devious trying to exert on the American public. They're exerting control. So we've had at our office here a no-mask policy from the get-go. I've got 65 on staff. Nobody's gotten sick. Of course, we take vitamins and minerals by the loads. And let me recommend, if you're going to take vitamins and minerals, folks, be sure to take vitamin D3. 5,000 to 10,000 international units a day to get your levels high enough that it stimulates the immune system to fight off the virus. It's been shown that people with low levels of vitamin D, which most people are because we're all working inside, they're more susceptible to getting respiratory viruses and bacteria than people that have high levels of vitamin D. Vitamin C is important too. It strengthens the immune system. It strengthens your adrenal glands. It also is antiviral at high doses and antibacterial, especially IV. Take vitamin A, take 10,000 units, good B complex, vitamin C, vitamin D3. Make sure you take zinc, 30 to 60,000 milligrams a day. This is just building up the immune system. Take magnesium. That helps your cells produce energy within the mitochondria, the power plants of the cell, and take a probiotic to put good, healthy bacteria in your gut, in your colon. If you do that, for the most part, you can be fine. Now, Trump was taking vitamins and all that, and remember, he got sick. Oh, he's going to die. Who's going to be the next president? Who's going to be the Speaker of the House? You know, on and on and on. Remember all the warnings. He's dying. He's getting sick. He walked out. He was just at a rally last week. He said, it didn't bother me. And I had a little fever for a day or two. Not a big deal. I mean, that's the kind of man Trump is. Hey, live your life. You can't live your life in fear. We all have risks every day driving down the road. You know, you could get in a car wreck. Are you going to quit driving because there's a risk of getting run over or hit or have an accident or get killed or injured in a car wreck? Everybody drives. What if they told us to quit driving, you know, to save lives? This whole concept that the federal government is here to protect our health is bogus. The federal government and the state governments are here to protect our constitutional rights and liberties. And what they've done is they've abrogated those rights and liberties, and they've taken tyrannical, dictatorial control of the people. Even in the Republican states, our governor here in Texas has done that, and he's a rhino. I mean, he has taken people's life, liberty, and property without due process of law, and that violates the Texas Constitution and the federal Constitution. So that's my 2 bits on the COVID virus scandemic and plandemic. And by the way, Jeb, I see this as a plan that they planned all along so that people could be open up to the concept of ballot by mail. Why? So we don't get COVID.
There you go.
And so they're sending out all these ballot by mail, which will be overflooding the system, and we won't have a return on the election for days, maybe weeks. There'll be lawsuits. It's going to throw the whole nation into an uproar, and that's their plan. That's part of the communist revolution. Just read about it. They've been planning and plotting this for years, and now they've taken over the Democrat Party, and they've got their brown shirts, which are black shirts, the Antifa, out there creating havoc, and the BLM, which is a Marxist organization. If you know anything about it, Black Lives Matter is run by 3 Marxists.
That's right.
Avowed. So, sir, you know, we're in a mess of a heck, but keep yourself healthy. You're not going to be able to handle the stress that's getting ready to come on our country if you don't get yourself healthy. And you can do that by eating healthy, cutting out the simple carbs that turn to sugar, eat whole foods, whole green salads, green vegetables, steamed, eat a little bit of meat. Make sure you eat good, healthy oils and fats like bacon and eggs and butter and avocados and coconut oil, olive oil, fish oil, nuts, and hard cheeses. Eat like that. Get down to a good ideal body weight. Exercise. Get a good night's sleep. Take your vitamins and minerals. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
Let me ask you.
Spirit of fear, but a power and loving discipline.
Let me ask you this, though, and I am not a medical doctor like you are. I am not at all versed or educated in medicine, but I've sure stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. Let me just say this. That I think they approached the COVID problem from the wrong angle. I think that if the most susceptible of our society are the elderly, they should have stopped there and worked backwards in age brackets, but they didn't do that. Your thoughts?
You're exactly right. They said something like they did a poll. 90 million people believe if they get COVID, they're going to die. And it hardly affects children under the age of 10. And, you know, it goes up as you get older and you have pre-existing conditions like heart disease, or you're a smoker, or you're a drug user, drink too much alcohol, or got kidney problems and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Sure, you have a risk factor. And the CDC came out, Jeb, a month ago and said only 9,600 people had died of COVID itself, 9,600. The rest of the people all had 2.6 pre-existing conditions. They died of their pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the average age of the person that dies of COVID is around 80. That's above the average lifespan of the average American. And then about 50% of the people, almost the majority of the people the average age of people who die is 80, approximately 80. 50% of the people die are nursing home residents. Well, guess what? 20% annually. 20% of the deaths in the United States annually are in nursing home residents. So they go, people in nursing homes are dying. People don't go to nursing homes because they're in good health. They go there because it's a last resort for the family to give them care in their last years of their life. And that's kind of the last stop for most Americans is a nursing home. You don't put them in a nursing home expecting them to get them back like a young woman again or a young man. So, and I'm not trying to be cavalier, but all these things are expected. People are born, they live a life, eventually they die. That doesn't mean you shouldn't take precautions. I told you what you need to do: exercise, sleep, eat healthy, take vitamins and minerals, keep yourself in good health. Don't have the risk factors. Don't smoke. Don't overdrink. Life's really not very simple. Instead of trying to treat the problem, just prevent it.
Absolutely. Dr. Hotze, I would imagine.
I'm 70. Hey, listen, I'm 70 years old, and I've treated a bunch of people, including family members, who've had symptoms of coronavirus. I treated them, and guess what? And I was around them. Did I get sick? Not a day.
Yeah. We have a caller with a question, and then I've got some other questions, too. Quickly, caller, you're on the air for Dr. Hotze. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'd like to hear his recommendations on taking selenium.
All right.
I'll listen in.
Okay, doctor, what about selenium?
Selenium's good and healthy for the thyroid gland. It also helps prevent cancer. People with low selenium levels tend, in certain areas of the world where they don't have much selenium, have a higher incidence of cancer. So there's a correlation. I'm not saying low selenium causes cancer, but we know that selenium helps boost the system so that it functions well, and primarily because it affects thyroid function.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Hotze. You've been very candid on my program, and I totally appreciate and realize that you must have put yourself in a position of where a lot of people are taking pot shots at you in your own industry, the medicine field. What are other doctors saying about you or to you about your attitude about COVID-19?
They don't mess with Dr. Hotze in Houston. No, I'm serious, they don't. I'm president of Conservative Republicans of Texas. I've been high profile. I had a radio program like you did every day for 15 years, from 12 to noon. And, I have a high profile. I put my stuff out, and they just don't want to mess with me. And a ton of people agree with me. A ton of doctors agree with me. But they don't have the courage to stand up and say anything. But I've had epidemiologists and infectious disease doctors write affidavits for lawsuits that I filed. So, they know what's going on. But there's a lot of money in it for the hospitals, and the hospitals encourage people to get diagnosed with COVID no matter what they have, so they can get an extra $13,000 from the federal government.
Let me ask you this, then.
Hey, Jim, it all gets down to power, control, and money, and ultimately it gets down to money. What they're going to push for is a vaccination. Bill Gates wants everybody in the world to get vaccinated. He's invested in those vaccine companies. You think that's going to make him $1 or $2? And what about all the politicians that get bought off?
Absolutely.
The envelopes get passed.
Absolutely.
They've been around for 40 years. That happens on both sides of the aisle, and it's sickening.
Let me ask you about this report that just came out called the Great Barrington Declaration, where 8,700 health scientists, 22,000 medical practitioners, and many, many more have said that's it. Lockdown did no good. It hurt America. No more. What are your thoughts?
Sure, that's exactly right. Listen, think about the poor little widows and widowers in nursing homes whose family have been banned from seeing them. We hear about them just going downhill. I had a good friend of mine, and they called and said, your mama who's in a nursing home is going downhill. They haven't been able to see her in 6 months. Take her to the hospital. They say she's got a day to live. Guess what? The family gathered around, prayed for her, hugged her, told her they loved her. 5 days later, she walked out of the hospital.
Oh, my. And
it's happening all over the country.
But why are we being led by the government, by the nose, if you will, to where the governors in various states, ours included, have had stages 1, 2, 3, 4 of shutdown, lockdowns? There's been talk that de Blasio and Cuomo back in New York want to go back to another shutdown. Biden has said if he's president, he's going to make a national mask mandate. I mean, where does this all stop? How do we, the people, get a voice back?
Look, you've got to do what you can where you are and just stand up, write your governor, and your politicians, and put the pressure on them. In Harris County and in Texas, I filed at least 10 or 11 suits with multiple plaintiffs, high-level legislators, and other political figures against our governor, against county judges, against county clerks. In fact, we're getting ready to file one in federal suit. A good case came out just yesterday from the Fifth Circuit, which looks like they would overturn our governor's executive orders, which don't have the force of law, but everybody acts like they do because it violates the Constitution. Nobody in the state of Texas, according to the Constitution, can suspend or make laws except the legislature, and the governor's making his own laws. And that happened up there in Michigan, and you saw where the Michigan Supreme Court overturned Governor Whitmore and said she didn't have the authority to do that because it violated the Constitution. So why are we letting this go on? Well, I'm not letting it go on, and you're not letting it go, and you're speaking out. There are literally millions of people that are speaking out, and ultimately the culmination is going to come on Election Day, and it's already started, folks. Election's already started, so if you haven't voted, vote. But I'm promising you this, and I don't have time to talk to you about it, Jeff, but the Democrats across in Harris County, which is Houston, and across Texas and across the country in metropolitan areas, are literally stealing the election through ballot-by-mail harvesting, which in Texas is a felony, and they're doing it by electronic computer fraud. All these elections are not run by your county and state. They're run by six privately owned election companies. And they can manipulate that data. They have vulnerabilities, both external and internal. And they're behind the curtain, folks. So, well, I just say without God's help, and we need to be praying that God would intervene in our country and save our country.
Amen.
That's what we have to do. We have to do everything we can within our power and means to stop it.
Absolutely. The author of the book called Hyperthyroidism, Health and Happiness, a great doctor, CEO and founder of Hotze Health and Wellness Center, Dr. Stephen Hotze, MD. Thank you so much for being on the program, and know that I'll call you to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, sir. I really enjoy having him on because there's a candid, very honest, straightforward approach about COVID and really what it is or what it is not. I agree with him in entirety that we have been duped into thinking it's much more severe, much more tragic than it really is. Calls are welcome, but right now it's time for the weather. And we're going to have our weather forecast brought to you by some really great people, the professionals at Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area for well over 50 years. And believe me, they know their stuff. The very best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, payroll services, retirement planning. The list goes on and on. They are the professionals, with offices at 1710 Overland and Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. You contact them today to help you, your family, and your business. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Temperatures are going to be cooling down as we make our way through the rest of this week, and here's a look at your weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies for today. It is going to be breezy with a southwest wind at about 10 miles an hour. Could gust as high as 34 miles an hour with the high of 71. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with the low 46. That breeze will continue. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Only going to see a high of 50. Still going to be breezy. Gusts as high as close to 50 miles an hour. By Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low of 31. Then for Thursday, going to get frosty in the morning. Otherwise, mostly sunny skies by the rest of the day. High of 54. Friday, sunny and 63. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
What did she say? Winds at 50 miles an hour? Woo! Hold on to your resistol. And the weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company. I just talked to Leiden yesterday. Good people working for you at Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company with offices in Burley and Rupert. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Yeah, some people out there other than you or me need to put some rocks in their pocket for 50-mile-an-hour winds to keep them on the ground.
You know, on crutches, I don't chase real well. And if you put a stampede string on your hat during 50-mile-an-hour winds, all it's going to do is turn you into the flying nun.
Exactly. It'd be just like putting on a parachute out there, just flipping it up.
Like a bungee cord. What can I do for you real quick?
The last two people you had on was great. And the one talking about the batteries and the charging stations and stuff.
Yeah.
I had a thought run through my head, which is scary when that happens.
How fast did it run?
Oh, it was just a bloop.
Okay.
But I was wondering, why can't we, on these charging stations, put a road tax on per kilowatt or something like that?
Absolutely. Why should they get a free ride?
Exactly. They do not pay any road tax on, like the gasoline is 50 cents a gallon for Idaho here. 25 federal, 25 state.
Yep. No, I think it's a great idea, and I think you should contact our legislators and let them know your thoughts, because I think it's an idea that absolutely should be generated, thought over, and possibly put into motion. I like the idea.
Yes, and also if you register an electric car, which means you're going to be plugging it in at your house, then there should be a surcharge for road tax on your electric bill.
There you go. There you go. Doug, your mind is working. The wheels, the chipmunks, the little Ferris wheel attempt up there is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you.
So I got more than a breeze in the windmills of my mind, huh?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's callers, I'm serious when I say this, it's callers like you that come up with great ideas. I think you should pursue it. Believe me, I think you should.
All right. After the show, would you send me Mr. Wood's phone number, and I'll give him a call?
I will do that. Thank you very much. All right, buddy. Want to remind you about Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. I got to hurry. I'm running late. Don't forget, Curtis and Lorena are there, and they are the gurus when it comes to knowing everything about electronic needs, whether it's home theater systems, video surveillance cameras, car stereos and speakers, all the complete sound systems, all the cords, all the cables, everything. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, closed on Sundays, of course. You stop in and see my friends. Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-6997. Really good people, let me tell you. Hey, coming up next hour, we've got the one, the only, the world famous in all the countries. Dr. History will be here. I'm going to go let him in. Here's the news. I'll be back in about 7. How can we possibly carry on a conversation with the music going? Telling us we got to play radio. Zeb at the Ranch, and we're in hour number 3. And, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best of tires. And, of course, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Want to remind you, too, about 7K Metals. You can help yourself. Do it yourself. Your financial security and future enhanced with silver purchases sent right to your home. Absolutely. It's a great saving opportunity and a valued treasure for your loved ones. Well, tell me more. How do you do it? It's easy. You contact my friends Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon at 430-3259. Tell them I told you to call. Tell them you're interested in silver purchases, and they can help you with 7K Metals. Please make that call today about 7K Metals and silver purchases sent right to your home. Well, it's Tuesday, and very seldom does he ever come off the mountain to talk to anybody. He's kind of the guru when it comes to history, staying up on Mount Harrison in the snow and the cold and the wind and the snow and the rain. Here he is, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing good. Beautiful day out there.
You know, I haven't been out since about 4 o'clock this morning. What's it doing? It looks a little hazy out there.
Not bad, but I passed a field with a whole bunch of beet trucks and harvesters out there getting a great crop of beets out.
You know, and I want to say that please, folks, watch out for all the harvest trucks. It's dangerous out there.
It is.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, do you have people to thank?
I do. I want to say hi to Matt and to Todd, both of which wrote to me this past week, and I appreciate their suggestions and comments. So,
where are they from?
I'm not sure because a lot of times I don't know really exactly where they're from.
I see.
Anyway, so today, Zeb, have you ever wondered how they came about to name the Western states?
Well,
just say no, because then I'm going to tell you.
In other words, are you trying to get me to shut up?
My glasses keep fogging up, too.
I noticed that. It's really fun to watch him because he's wearing his mask, and I respect him for that. But then all of a sudden, I lose sight of his eyeballs. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. So, the names of 17 of the Western states seem to fall into 4 categories. Those which bear an Indian name, those that are named after a topographical feature of the country, those which have a Spanish name, and those that were named by Congress, and a guy by the name of James M. Ashley, a congressman from Ohio, and chairman of the Committee on Territories. So that's how, those are the 4 sources of names. Now, in 1854, the residents of the region now known as Arizona petitioned... Sorry, Zeb.
Go ahead. Leave it right there at the bottom.
I just can't hardly talk with this. Okay,
right.
there we go. Anyway, so in 1854, the residents of the region now known as Arizona petitioned Congress to make their country a territory. Now, several names among them, Pimeria, Gadssonia, and Arizona.
I'm going to have you back the mic up just a little bit.
How's that?
Away from your mouth. Yeah, okay. There. It was a little fuzzy with the mask. Go ahead.
So the 3 names they came up with were Pimeria, Gadssonia, and Arizona. Those were the ones suggested.
You're developing an accent.
Thank you. So there are various explanations of the origin of the word Arizona.
I see.
Now the most popular being the derivation of the name from the Papago Indian word Arizonac.
I would imagine arid conditions?
Yes. But actually that, Arizonac, means little springs. Now, ironically enough, the little spring for which the territory possibly was named does not even lie in Arizona. It's actually found in Mexico, across the border.
I see.
Now, the name might have been derived from 2 Spanish words, arida, meaning dry, and zona, thus the name would mean dry zone.
Dry zone.
Dry zone.
Arizona.
Yeah. So that's how it got its name. Now, the territory of Dakota was named after the Dakota Indians. We know that.
And the state Delaware was after a lady named Della, and what did she wear?
Yeah. I hadn't heard of that one. But the territory of Dakota was named after the Dakota Indians, and the name means friends or allies in their language. And I didn't know this, but as a sign of contempt, their enemies gave them the nickname Sioux.
Really?
Yeah, and I had never heard that before. But now in 1889, the territory of Dakota, as the states of North and South Dakota, both sections decided to take the name of Dakota and began suggesting excellent names for the other one.
I was wondering about that, Ken, honestly. North and South Dakota, kind of like North Carolina and South Carolina. Why did they go with the same name?
Well, let me just tell you here. The southern section claimed the name of Dakota. Okay. Now the North felt that it had a more valid claim to the name, as it had made Dakota wheat famous throughout the world. All right. Now the controversy was finally solved by President Benjamin Harris, who, with the wisdom of Solomon, neatly divided the name between the 2 claimants. When signing the bills admitting the territories to statehood, he covered all of the documents but the space for his signature so that no one would know, not even himself, which would be first, as far as North and South Dakota. So nobody really knows which was signed first to claim as being the first Dakota, if you want.
Was it originally called the Dakota Territory before it split into 2 states?
I don't know that. Well, actually it was, yeah. It was called the Territory of Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Now, Utah was originally organized as the, quote, Provisional State of Deseret by the Mormons in 1849.
Really?
Now, the obvious substitute which followed tradition lay in the name of the Utah Nation of the Shoshones, the Utes. The name had already been given to a lake, Utah Lake, and its outflowing stream, Utah River. But anyway, it was the Mormons were strongly in favor of the name Deseret.
For the entire state?
For the state of Utah. However, the name Deseret was kind of, didn't sit too good with some of the congressmen because it suggested desert. And, of course, the will of Congress prevailed, so it was Utah.
And that was in 1849, right?
Yes, 1849. Now, the Indian Territory of Oklahoma was created on May 2nd, 1890. The Commissioner of Affairs asked congressional delegates what they would call their territory. Now, the Reverend Allen Wright, who was a Choctaw delegate, impulsively replied, Oklahoma, which meant red people. Okay. Now, this Reverend Wright, his impulsiveness kind of displeased several of the Cherokees who considered themselves to be older brothers and thus entitled to be heard first. Well, in 1906, citizens of the territory voted to call it Sequoia, after the famous Indian leader who developed the Cherokee alphabet, but Congress did not back them up, and the state of Oklahoma was admitted to the Union in 1907.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Now, the names of Texas and Kansas, they are both Indian in origin, and have fairly uncluttered histories. Texas is derived from the Spanish pronunciation of a Caddo Indian word, Tejas, meaning allies or friends, and was first given to the country occupied by those Indians in 1690. So Tejas, T-E-J-A-S.
I've seen that.
Translates into Texas.
Yeah.
Now, Kansas was named after the Kansas River, which got its name from a tribe of Indians living along its banks, as an old Sioux word, originally Kansa, and is translated wind people, small wind, people of the south wind people, camp behind also. There's a lot of possible translations for the word Kansa.
I see.
So, but that's where that came from. Now, Nebraska,
there you go,
comes from the Omaha Indian word, and I'm just going to take a guess at this. It's Niptaska, meaning flat water, and that describes the Platte River, which flowed through it from the Great South Pass. Okay, so Nebraska. Now, the Oregon River, which we now know as the Columbia, gave its name to the Oregon Territory and subsequently to the state. Okay, so the Columbia River was originally called the Oregon River.
I did not know that either.
Now, some people say...
When did they change that?
I think I'll get to that. Let me see here. Some people say it was originally a French-Canadian and meant hurricane or tornado. Others say it comes from a Shoshone Indian word for... Got the wrong page there.
I noticed that. He had this vacant stare on his face all of a sudden.
Well, let me back up. Okay, so I transition here. So some people say it was originally French-Canadian and meant hurricane or tornado. Others say it comes from a Shoshone word for unsuggested.
He can't find
I am so confused, Zeb.
I haven't done anything.
I know it. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. I was on the right page.
There you go.
So it comes from the word meaning undulating water. As an interesting theory is that it came from the plural form of orejone, O-R-E-J-O-N-E, a Spanish word.
Orejone?
Orejone. Yeah.
Orejone.
Which actually meant big ears and referred to those Indians whose warriors stretched their ears by loading them with ornaments.
Really?
So that's where the word Oregon came from.
Orejone, big ears.
Now the word California.
I can't wait to call my good friend Larry Smith up in Pendleton and say, hello, Orejone.
Big ears, yeah. Now, the word California, the most generally accepted theory seems to be that a passage from a Spanish romance published in 1510 or 1511 is where the word California came from.
No kidding.
And here's a quote from that book. It says, "Know ye that at the right hand of the Indies there is an island called California, very close to that part of the terrestrial paradise." So that little excerpt from the book is where the name California came from.
No kidding.
Yeah. Now, in 1773, the distinction was made between Alta California, now the American state, and Baja California, the present Mexican territory.
Right.
And upon its entrance into the Union, Alta California simply dropped the Alta and became California.
I'll be darned.
So, now, with the exception of Florida, the name of New Mexico is said to be the oldest state name. It dates back to 1583.
Wow.
When the time arrived for the citizens of the territory to name their state, they thought of Lincoln, they thought of Montezuma, and Hamilton.
No, Montezuma's revenge.
No, just Montezuma. They were all suggested, along with the name of the ancient Pueblo Acoma, which was suggested.
Oh.
But anyway, whatever, New Mexico is what stuck, and that's what it was named. Now we get to Nevada. The state of Nevada was originally called Washoe, after a tribe of Indians. Now, this, however, was considered to be lacking in dignity, and the Committee on Territories chose the Spanish Sierra Nevada after the chief mountain range in the area, and shortened to Nevada. And the inhabitants actually continued to call the territory Washoe clear into about 1864.
Really?
So that's how Nevada came to be. Now, the name Humboldt was suggested also for Nevada. And then Esmeralda, the name of a local mining camp. Next was Sierra Plato, which meant mountain silver, followed by Oro Plata, which stood for gold silver. But in the end, Nevada still is the one that played out.
Now, did the people vote for the name, or was it the legislators?
Well,
or who was it?
That's a good question. And in some cases, it was the legislature that decided this is what, and I think if there was dispute, that's where it was settled.
What about the boundaries, the districts?
You know, there's a whole story about that, and I might have to get into that one of these days.
Because I've often wondered, and some of these states look like a jigsaw puzzle.
Right. And I'll see if I can come up with a story about how they got their shapes.
Yeah.
So now it's 1806, an expedition led by Captain Zebulon Park.
Oh, my uncle.
Your uncle. A huge snow-covered mountain, which was to become, as we know, Pikes Peak.
Right.
Now, bills were presented providing for what they called Kelowna Territory, Jefferson Territory, Osage, and Colorado Territory after the name of a Spanish river, and none of these met with real good favor, and a newspaper reported. Here's what they said. The Senate committee have before them the following names: Yampa, interpreted bear; Idaho, meaning gem of the mountains, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, we will.
Namora, Colorado; San Juan, Lula, interpreted mountain fairy; Wipilo, and Arapaho, the name of the Indian tribe inhabiting the Pikes Peak region. The House seems to have hit upon the very appropriate name of Tahosa, which means dwellers on the mountains, mountaintops. This or Idaho will probably be developed. And again, I know you got a question there, Sam.
I do. I do.
I'll get there. I'll get there.
Right.
So the majority of these translations were more romantic than accurate, and the favorite, actually, Idaho, was accepted by the local convention and approved by the Committee on Territories. All right. A bill was presented in 1861, and everything was presumably settled. However, the territorial delegate seems to have discovered that Idaho did not mean gem of the mountains.
It didn't?
It did not. So, Colorado it was. Now, we're going to get to Idaho right here.
You know what I'm going to ask.
You hang in there.
Yeah.
So, Idaho, defeated as the candidate for the name of the state of Colorado, was soon...
Idaho actually could have been Colorado.
Exactly. Yeah, it was that close.
I did not know that.
Oh. So Idaho, defeated as the candidate for the name of the state of Colorado, was soon to be heard again in the halls of Congress. When gold was discovered in the Shoshone country in 1860, the newspapers felt that a new state, probably named Idaho, would be formed, but the Committee on Territories had its own ideas. In 1863, Mr. James M. Ashley introduced a bill for the territory of Montana rather than Idaho. And it was passed by the House, but the Senate also liked to play with names, and Mr. Wilson, citing, quote, gem of the mountains as the meaning of Idaho, and had Mr. Ashley's bill amended to read the territory of Idaho. And Idaho it became.
What did Idaho mean?
It doesn't mean anything. It does not mean Idaho, an Indian word. It was a made-up word.
I didn't know that
Idaho, and I've got this on another, it says, mining lobbyist George M. Willing presented the name Idaho to Congress for a new territory around Pikes Peak, claiming it was a Native American Shoshone phrase, Idaho, supposedly meaning gem of the mountains. And by the time the deception was discovered, the name Idaho was already in common use, and that's where we got it.
So when we sing, "Here we have Idaho," we're not really singing about a true name.
No, it's a made-up name. So now let's get to Montana.
Okay.
Montana is probably derived from the Latin or Spanish adjective for mountainous and was first heard in the West in 1858. A town site was located in the Pikes Peak gold diggings by a group of miners. One of them was a guy named Josiah Hinman, and he called the place Montana. So
where did he come up with Montana?
I don't know. Somehow.
I mean, all of a sudden he got out of bed, put his boots on, and said, Montana.
Yeah. But there was the governor Denver up there in Montana, remembered the name and suggested it as the name of the territory. So Montana it was. Now, a beautiful valley which the Delaware Indians called, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, Mekawaming.
Leave it lay, Ken. Leave it lay.
At the Big Flats, and it lay among the mountains of northeastern Pennsylvania. Anyway, the name clipped by Indian and
You're not talking about Monongahela.
No.
Oh.
The name clipped by Indians and white men alike was finally reduced to Wyoming.
No.
Wyoming. Yeah. So when a new territory was to be organized in 1868, the name was suggested. Cheyenne was strongly supported. The name was attached to passes, cities, rivers, mountains throughout the territory, and the dissenters objected on the grounds that it was a French name for a dog, and but anyway, it became Wyoming. In the end, the beauty of Wyoming appealed to many, while the opposition could find no really suitable substitute, and the name was upheld. And I like the name Wyoming, don't you?
I do too. I love that, yeah.
Now, in 1853, the settlers of the northern section of the Oregon Territory desired to separate and organize the territory of Columbia. But Columbia had almost all the qualities expected of a state name, although it was not an Indian name. But it was the local choice. It was patriotic, it was popular, and it was taken from the great rivers of the region, the Columbia. Anyway, there was a Mr. Stanton of Kentucky, and he suggested that there was already a District of Columbia. Okay? The name Washington, and he suggested the name Washington be substituted for Columbia. So Mr. Stanley said, there has been but one Washington upon the earth, and there's not likely to be another, and as Providence has sent but one for all time, let us have one state named after that one man, and let the name be Washington.
There you go.
So 2 days later, suggested that the whole issue be solved, give this territory these Indian names, but they actually thought of some other names, Indian names like Snohomish, Skagit, Cowlitz, Wakahakiam, and Klickitat.
Did you hear what you just said?
I did.
You got through that one good.
I did.
Wakahakiam.
But Washington prevailed, and that is what it is.
Can I ask you about a state that I went to college at?
Sure.
And that's Minnesota. Now, I've been told, tell me, is Minnesota an Indian derivative of Land of 10,000 Lakes?
I do not know, but for some reason it sticks in my mind that it's an Indian word or derived
meaning
from
a lot of water.
Yeah, I think it's from an Indian word, and I couldn't tell you for sure. But
this was really interesting. But Idaho, I want you to go back to that. I got a minute left, only a minute. But Idaho really is not, as we thought, an Indian word or derivative, right?
Okay, no, but there's a lot of theories out there. Now, the exact origin of the name, it still remains a mystery, but according to local knowledge, the name Idaho originated from the Nez Perce language and stands for the land of many waters. So that's another thought,
So how do we find out the truth?
I don't think we will, because it's been disputed. It was taught, years and years ago in Idaho history that it came from the word Idaho.
So now when we sing the song, here we have Idaho, we just go, here we have,
No, it's Idaho. And you know what? I like the name Idaho.
I do too.
It just has a good ring to it.
It always gets confused with Iowa.
And Iowa, Ohio.
Yeah, I know it. Illinois, yeah.
But, Washington, Oregon, Montana, Wyoming, they just have Arizona. They just have a good ring to them.
The story about Arizona was really interesting, though. Arizona.
Yeah,
Arid
right.
zone.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does. It really does.
Yeah. Hey, that was good. Find out about Minnesota.
Minnesota, and I'm going to see if I can
And
figure out.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. I think all those were Indian names.
Now, Illinois is named after the Chief Illini.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of other states. Maybe I'll just look into doing some of the other states, see where they came from, too.
Yeah.
Because I only covered like
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Come up with that one.
Yeah. Well, William Penn.
There you go.
Sure.
What about the Sylvania part of it? After a light bulb?
I don't think so. Penn.
Thanks.
There's got to be a name for Sylvania. There's got to be a
It's
meaning.
a television set.
A meaning for it. It's not the TV.
Well, we lost listeners today. Anyway, Dr. History, that was really interesting. And find out about some of those other states.
I will. It's got me curious now.
Yeah. And when you're curious, look out.
That's right.
Dr. History every Tuesday right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Hey, by the way, don't forget to Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. They're having their big harvest sale, 40% off. 40% off all furniture, mattresses, dining room sets, motion furniture, bedroom and groups, and everything else. Simmons Beauty Rest mattresses are 50% off. I mean, start the car, warm it up, head for Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Oberlin in Burley. Jeff and the crew waiting to serve you, to comfortize and beautify your home, and that's at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studio. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Best.
Now, Ken and I were still talking about all the names of the various states and the origination of the names and everything. That's really interesting. I did not know a lot of that. Appreciate it. Dr. History every Tuesday at 10:06. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and this gentleman has been on my program before, and I really am looking forward to having him back. He's the executive director of Power the Future. Daniel Turner, how are you?
Zeb, it is great to be with you. Thanks for having me back on.
I got a picture of you right here on my paper so that I can tell who I'm talking to. And tell us a little bit about Power the Future. What kind of an organization is it, and what do you hope to do?
I started this group about 3 years ago for the sole purpose of protecting America's energy industry, and not from the industry perspective, from the workers' perspective. I was having a real problem with the fact that the men and women who work in our energy industry, whether it's oil, gas, coal, fracking, pipelines, etc., they live in rural parts of the country, and yet the folks in D.C. and the power brokers in New York and San Francisco, they seem to dictate a lot of the policies and the rules, and there's a great disconnect. I felt like the energy workers needed a voice and someone to push back, and so I started the group for that purpose.
I'm going to tell you right now, Daniel, you and I are on the same page. I know that. And over at the station, Engineer Sean, if you'd cut the feedback just a little bit. But rural America, and I'm going to make this statement, and you can laugh at me or you can agree with me. Rural America is really on the table for this next election, because if the Democrats get their way and they supposedly put their energy program in front of America and tell us that we have to eat it, it's going to kill rural America. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're 100% right. Rural America used to be where the majority of Americans lived, and that has flip-flopped in my lifetime. And we've left rural America and gone to the city. And so now we have a generation of folks, maybe Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is the prime example. We have a generation of young folks who have not experienced rural America. And maybe they talk about their great-grandparents being on a farm or in a coal mine, but they don't experience it and they don't have a lot of respect for it. Rural America gives us our food. It gives us a lot of our manufacturing. It gives us all of our energy, which is my sector. For the most part, it fights our wars, right? A lot of our soldiers and our sailors and our Marines and airmen, they come from the rural parts of this country. But 60% of us live in big cities, and we make decisions for big cities. Look at the Green New Deal as the best example. It was written with the city dweller in mind. And when you say we're going to ban the combustion engine, which is what the Green New Deal wants to do, they're not thinking of Idaho. They're not thinking of farmers. They're not thinking of people who drive 15 miles to go to the grocery store. They're thinking about Brooklyn, because that's where they live, but that's not all of America.
Well, Daniel, it goes without saying that you're on a subject right here that I think I know a little bit about. And when you start talking about a transition, the word transition in agriculture, as far as getting away from fossil fuels to run the tractors and the combines and the trucks and the harvest and everything else, it ain't going to happen, buddy.
No, and as that happens, prices will skyrocket, and it will really be a huge hit to our economy. Look, the governor of California just recently proposed banning the gas-powered cars by the year 2035.
Yeah.
He didn't propose it. Let me rephrase that. He did it by executive order. Who knew that governors had the power to tell you what type of car you can buy? But I guess in California, that governor has that power. And he did it standing in front of an $80,000 electric Audi. Now, I am not going to begrudge anyone their wealth, and I would love to think I have $80,000 to buy myself a new car one day. But when I needed a new car just a few months ago, I got a 4-year-old used pickup because that's what I need for my lifestyle, and I have a small farm, and that's what I need. I don't have $80,000 to buy an electric vehicle, right? So the Green New Deal and this just transition that you're talking about, this is written for people who are rich city dwellers who can live, who can afford the expense difference. The Green New Deal will raise gas prices astronomically. Look at Europe. Europe is all in on green. They pay 3 and 4 times what we do in utility bills, and they pay 3 and 4 times, depending upon the country, for their price of gasoline, what they call petrol. Could you and your family pay 4 times this winter your heating bill? I couldn't. No, nor can I pay 4 times the gas bill at the pump. That's what a green future looks like.
Well, what's going to happen with the green energy program, with the idiocy of the bartender, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's going to put our elderly people literally out in the cold, because on fixed incomes of just basically Social Security, who's going to be able to afford this foolishness?
Exactly. And they are the ones who always suffer under liberal policies, right? Regardless of the issue, energy, of course, because that's what I do and that's what we're talking about. But when liberals get to decide your education policy, do they send their kids to those failed schools? No, of course not. They send them to private schools. Barack Obama was the best example of that. He sent his kids to a very fancy prep school, but he didn't let other kids go to that school without your programs, right? When liberals are in charge of policy, it is the poor and the underprivileged and the middle, even the middle class, who suffers. Again, let's go back to California. As their green energy grid cannot sustain the entire state, they've had to do selective shortages, and they've shut off the electricity in certain parts. Not Hollywood, not Beverly Hills, not Silicon Valley, right? Not Malibu. They're all fine. But the regular folks, the regular people in towns that even I don't know their names, they're the ones who get told by the governor, hey, energy shortage today, buddy, sorry, we're going to turn off your power for the next 24 hours. It is regular folks who suffer under liberalism.
Well, Daniel, I'm going to say this, and I think, again, you'll concur with me, that with the idiocy of the Green New Deal put out by Democrats that live and are insulated by the big cities, etc., it's going to take away the power of freedom for America to choose where they want to live and force us into a communal-style lifestyle.
Absolutely. That's what socialism does across the board, right? There's a wonderful program way back in the 70s. You can find it on social media and on YouTube, that Milton Friedman, one of the greatest economic minds of ever, let alone our lifetime, and it was called Free to Choose, because freedom and capitalism and free markets give people the choice. If you want to buy an $80,000 car because you think it's good for the earth, you should have that choice. But if you can't afford it and you still need to drive your kids to school and drive your mother to her chemotherapy appointments, you should be able to buy a car that fits your lifestyle, right? Freedom is choosing what works for you based upon your family's needs, your needs, or just your desire. Again, the Green New Deal, and Kamala Harris has said this, has dietary restrictions. And when asked by a journalist if she would support amending America's food choices, she said she would. She thinks, as president, she should tell people what they can eat because it's what is good for them. Free to choose means if I want to smoke a pack of cigarettes and eat a steak and a bottle of bourbon every day, I have that right. You may say it's not good for me, but I have the right to choose what I want to do in a free country. Green New Deal gets rid of that.
Let me ask you this, Daniel, and I'm not picking on you, but I'm just asking you a poignant question as to your organization and you as the head of the organization. Why haven't you made inroads to get nose-to-nose with these people like Biden and AOC and others and ask them direct questions which they need to answer? I mean, how come we're not putting the fire right in front of them and say, answer the question?
Yeah, you know, and you're absolutely correct, and it breaks my heart that I haven't had more success. It's very difficult when you're Joe Biden and you're in your basement all day, and then you selectively pick what journalists you're going to talk to. Now, again, I'm not a journalist. We put out information into the public square to help people and inform people and help them make the right decisions. But Joe Biden is never going to let me within 15 feet of him, nor is Kamala Harris. And one of my jobs is to feed this information to the public, to journalists, and hopefully ask them to make the tough questions. But they don't ask those questions, right? When you are in the tank for the Biden-Harris campaign, like the media is, they get asked softball questions over and over again. This is a tough question. If AOC would ever do me the honor of a televised or social media streamed interview, I'd love to ask her about her Green New Deal, and I would be as polite and respectful as her role as a member of Congress merits. But when she says we're going to ban the combustion engine, what does that mean for the guy right now listening to you and me who's on a ham radio on a tractor because he's got work to do in the field? What's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to the long-haul trucker? And people in Brooklyn are very excited to get their Amazon same-day delivery. Will they still have it when there's no combustion engine, let alone your recreational vehicle, your RV, your 4x4s, your boat, right? What will happen to the cruise ship industry if we ban the combustion engine? And I wouldn't let her tap dance around it and talk about climate change or the earth. No. Let's talk about facts. You want to propose this. What does it mean? And that's what people need to worry about with these big policies.
Well, Daniel, let's talk a little bit about the idiocy and the incompetency of these politicians saying we're going to go all electric by a certain year, etc. What about the electric grid? First of all, if they're going to try to have reliable electricity on that grid that's going to supply power for everything in America, from our security all the way to a light and an insurance office, they've got to have something that's going to be reliable, and the solar and the wind turbines are not reliable. What are we going to do as a nation when they start plugging in all these multi-million numbers of cars and pickups and heavy-duty trucks? What about the electrical grid?
Absolutely. And this is extrapolating to its natural consequence. When you say we're going to go green, Joe Biden has proposed an all-green electric grid by the year 2035. So if we're going to do this realistically, let alone the price, which is impossible. But where do we get the land is a question I have. The largest wind farm in America is in Texas. Of course, it's in Texas because everything is big in Texas. It's 100,000 acres. And on a good day, when the wind is blowing, it can produce 1/24th of New York City's power.
Wow.
That's 100,000 acres. So if I'm doing my math correctly, we need roughly 2 million acres of land just for New York City. What about the rest of the state? What about Boston? What about all of of New Jersey. Where are we getting the land for all of these wind turbines and the solar panels? Again, let alone the cost, let alone the fact that 70% of them are manufactured in China. What about the mining, right? How about this fun fact? Every electric vehicle has roughly 60 pounds of copper. Do we mine enough copper right now for all these electric vehicles? Well, clearly the answer is no. So are we going to be allowed to look for copper? Well, there's a copper mine in Alaska that's been fighting for 17 years to open. They can't get their permits. So there are these questions that just come out that you say, if we're going to completely go green, well, let's bring it to its natural consequences. And as adults, have an adult conversation about what it means to go green. I'm not opposed to green technology, but I will point out its limitations, just like I'll point out the limitations of the fossil fuel industry. But I don't think the left is that mature that they will have that conversation with me.
No, and the left's not smart enough, and I'm going to be very blunt, the left's not smart enough to tell you about what about the residual effects of having all these so-called dead batteries laying all over the place. Is there going to be a national depository for these batteries? What happens when mom and pop are on a trip back to Tucumcari, New Mexico, and the battery burns up in their vehicle? How accessible is new battery going to be for their car to go and continue their trip? I mean, the lunacy of what's going on here is absolutely enormous.
Yeah. And what happens when these hurricanes blow through, like we've seen this hurricane season, and they destroy the entire wind turbine farm or the entire solar farm? You know what's interesting is we've had a number of hurricanes blow through the Gulf of Mexico. Have you heard about any oil and gas disasters? Isn't it amazing how the oil and gas industry in the Gulf of Mexico can survive a Category 5, Category 4 hurricane and then get right back online? Puerto Rico was going big on wind turbines till Hurricane Maria a couple years ago blew every single one of them down. No wonder why Puerto Rico couldn't get electricity on for weeks and months, and we had to bring generators, right?
Yeah.
So can you admit, environmental left, that wind turbines and solar panels have huge vulnerabilities to the elements? Europe in the north, how about this fun fact? Wind turbines at negative 20 degrees are ineffective. It is too cold to produce a charge. Rich people in Chicago learned this the hard way with their Teslas during the polar vortex, because at negative 20, even though their Tesla's plugged in all day, they go to hit the button in the morning to drive to their hedge fund, and their car is dead. You know what car did not die at negative 20? My pickup truck.
Amen.
Absolutely fine. So there are negatives to the green energy world. We need to talk about them, and America needs to know about them.
Well, what do we do, though? I mean, it's easy for you and I to sit here and discuss this on the radio, and we're both on the same page. We both have an animosity against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other people that really haven't thought beyond their shoelaces as to what's going to happen. But what do we, the people, do? Do we have any power left to stop this?
Yes, and you do at the local level, and that's where it's very important. When it comes to the electric grid, it really isn't a national grid. For good or for bad, we don't have a national electric grid. We have 50 and Washington, D.C. interlaced state-level grids. So California, when they are struggling, will buy electricity from neighboring states at a premium also, but they will buy it. And a lot of northern states will buy it from Canada, right? You can exchange, et cetera, et cetera. The best thing that you can do is at your state level, when your governor is running, when your councilman is running, talk about these issues and say, here's my utility bill. What is going to happen to it under your proposal? Oh, here's a wonderful example of this. In the Democrat National Convention just a couple of weeks ago, the governor of New Mexico was standing in front of a solar field, and she gave her speech and said, you know, we're all solar in New Mexico. We're the wave of the future. We're going to be a solar state in New Mexico. And that same day, her utility company sent a note to the people of New Mexico asking them to raise their thermostats because the grid was failing.
Oh, my.
Now, how come no journalist asked the governor, you have the gall to stand in front of a solar panel field and tell folks that you have to raise your thermostats? They can't have air conditioning because you can't keep your state running. You can't keep it powered. again, my electricity never faltered once. So you have the best thing you can do is stop it at your local and state level.
But there's another problem here, two problems. Number one, we've got politicians that haven't got the common sense that God gave a toothpick. And number two, our education system is teaching kids from kindergarten all the way through the university system that green is the only way to go. How do we change that?
Yeah, again, at the local and state level, you have to know what your kids are learning. I think coronavirus showed an awful lot of parents what their kids are learning or not learning at school. And one of the criticisms I have of this industry, and it's something I hope to change, and it's going to be hard, and if people help us and pray for me to do it, but people need to learn about what benefits we get from the oil and gas industry, and not just in terms of low prices and manufactured goods, but in terms of the myriad products. The telephone I am holding in my hand as I talk to you is a petrochemical. The fact that in the middle of the winter you can get an avocado from Mexico at a reasonable price that is not rotten because of the oil and gas industry.
That's right.
Everything from your clothing to your streaming videos. And we need to teach kids what it really means to be green. So here's another fun example. Any of your young folks, or even yourselves at home, who are watching Netflix, or maybe if they're a younger person, they're streaming video games, that streaming service uses twice the amount of electricity as your refrigerator. So next time you see a 13-year-old who's been indoctrinated by the green left and says, we need to do more for the earth, tell them, that's great, little Johnny. I'll tell you what, let's start with your gaming. And if you give up all of your video games, that will be a huge benefit for the earth. And see if Johnny wants to put his money where his mouth is. I guarantee you he won't.
Absolutely. You know, I wished I had more time, but I'm going to invite you back, the Executive Director of Power of the Future, Daniel Turner. You're a good guy, you're a very knowledgeable person, and please come back in the future.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Very, very interesting guest, Daniel Turner, and I appreciate him being here on this morning's program, telling the truth about the insane attitude of green energy, and it is. I think it's time for the weather. Actually, the clock tells me that I'm late for the weather, so we're going to gallop right into it. The weather's brought to you by Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Hello, Don Scarrow and the crew. And believe me, you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and check out all the delicious meats. I mean, whether we're talking about turkeys or hams or all the different bacons or the tri-tips or the bratwurst or whatever. I mean, it's all great. It's all delicious from Scarrow's Meats. Number to call, 324-7657. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Temperatures are going to be cooling down as we make our way through the rest of this week, and here's a look at your weather forecast. Mostly sunny skies for today. It is going to be breezy with a southwest wind at about 10 miles an hour. Could gust as high as 34 miles an hour with the high of 71. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with the low 46. That breeze will continue. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Only going to see a high of 50. Still going to be breezy. Gusts as high as close to 50 miles an hour. By Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low of 31. Then for Thursday, going to get frosty in the morning. Otherwise, mostly sunny skies by the rest of the day. High of 54. Friday, sunny and 63. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Woo! Got some changes that are usually centered around this time of the year. And that's the weather brought to you by Scarrow's Meats. Don Scarrow and his excellent staff at 331 North Road, Jerome. I urge you to call. Get ready for the holidays. I know I want you to be ready with all the turkeys and the hams and everything. You got relatives and friends coming over. Delicious meats from Scarrow's Meats. They are changing the way we eat, one bite at a time. Oh my, what have we got cooking on tomorrow's program? Let me get my list. First of all, we have the first hour on Open Forum. Then we've got at 9:06 Dave Bigo. And then we've got Karen Cataline coming up at 9:30. Dr. Bruce Hartman. He is always so interesting at 10:06 tomorrow morning. And then one of my favorites, absolutely one of my favorites. We always say when he's on the air, it's me, the cowboy, with the man from Beantown, Gary Goldman, back in Boston, Massachusetts. And he really tells it like it is politically. So don't miss that. Now, on Thursday, I want you to remember that at 10:30 on Thursday, we're going to have the governor. Governor Brad Little will be on our program for about a 16, 17-minute segment on Thursday. Want to remind you, too, about our major sponsor, and that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Hello, Les Schwab. You know, it goes without saying, they've got all the tires. They've got all the tread designs to fit all vehicles because they've got all the sizes. There you go. And along with all their tires, you know they've got the best in brake service. You know they've got the best in front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. I urge you, I'm telling you, this time of the year when you're looking at upsies and downsies on that old thermometer, you better make sure that on those cold mornings you've got a battery that's going to turn that engine over. If not, they've got the best in batteries for you at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Who are they? James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I've got 1 minute, real fast. Go.
Yeah, Zeb, I got a question. Why don't you ask the governor why he don't open this state up like Christy Doan did with South Dakota, or like the governor of Florida is doing down there?
Well, as a matter of fact, that is one of the questions I'm going to be asking him on Thursday. After we've seen so many things change the last couple of days with the World Health Organization and also another big group with thousands of doctors saying no more lockdowns, open it up, let's get back to work and be productive.
Yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd bring it up. It'd be nice if you'd ask him that.
I will do that, sir, I promise. Thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it. We're going to leave right now. Yeah, I'm going to go out. I'm going to have a little bite to eat. I haven't had anything since 4 o'clock this morning with a little bitty bowl of cereal. And I'm going to have some lunch, and I'll be back here again tomorrow morning at 8:06. And certainly hope that you'll tune in. We always end the program by saying the way things were, the way things ought to be. And the 4 words that mean the most to me, in God we trust. Have a great day. Adios. We'll see you tomorrow morning.